All right, thank you everybody for coming to the May 21st Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting. So just running down the agenda, welcome and introductions. And then our first guest speaker will be Pedro Hernandez with MassDOT on the next generation pedestrian and bicycle vision map. And then Galen Mook and Alexis Hosea Abbott, they'll be giving an update on Mass Bike. And then Sebastian St. Hubert, who's doing a world record attempt biking from Boston to New York City in under 10 hours. We'll be talking. And then we'll go through some bike and ped projects in the OCPC region. And then we'll go over an event recap from the 3 events that OCPC put together for Bay State Bike Month. And so we'll just do introductions real quick. I'll start. My name is Kyle Mowat. I am a senior transportation planner with the Old Colony Planning Council. And I'll hand this off to, let's go to Sean.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Bailey. I am also a senior transportation planner here with Old Colony Planning Council, and I will hand it over to Matt.
Thanks, Sean. I'm Matt Dyer. I'm a senior transportation planner here at Old Colony Planning, and I'll hand it off to Bill McNulty.
Thanks, Matt. Bill McNulty. I'm principal transportation planner here at OCPC, and I'll hand it off to Charlie.
I think he stepped away, Bill.
In that case, hand it off to Mary.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Waldron. I'm the executive director here at Old Colony Planning Council, and I'm going to hand this to Lee Hartman.
Lee Hartman, our Old Colony Planning Council delegate and also planning director for the town of Plymouth. And I'll turn it over to who? I have not paid attention.
Charlie.
John Stone.
John Stone, Town of Abington DPW Director, and I'll pass it off to Charlie.
Hey, thanks, John. I'm Charlie Kilmer, Deputy Director and Transportation Program Manager with OCPC. Apologize, I had to step away, so I'm not sure who to pass it off to next.
Let's go to Pedro.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. My name is I'm a senior program manager at the Mass DOT. I work under the chief engineer in the highway department.
Thank you. We'll go over to Alexis.
Hi, I'm Alexis Hosea Abbott. I work at Mass Bike. I'm the regional advocacy specialist, and I'll hand it off to Galen.
Hey, everyone. This is Galen Mook, executive director here at Mass Bike. Glad to be here. Let's see. Did Lee go yet?
Yes, he did. Let's go to
Yes, I did.
Barbara LaChance.
Hi, everyone. Barbara LaChance. I'm the MassDOT District 5 planner.
Thank you. Bonnie Rolson.
Hi, my name's Bonnie. I'm with Massachusetts Safe Routes School.
Guo Chang.
Hi, sorry. This is Guo Chang Li. I'm the principal transportation planner with Old Colony Planning Council.
Thank you. Yolando.
Hi, folks. Yolando with Walk, Massachusetts. I'm also a council member on OCPC.
Thank you. Jed.
Hi, Jed Horesco, lead organizer of Brockton Bikes.
Thank you. Ray.
Ray Garino, principal transportation planner with Old Colony Planning Council.
Thank you. Wendy from Pembroke.
Hi, good afternoon. Wendy Lockyer, Deputy Police Chief, Pembroke Police Department.
Thank you. William Roth.
Present.
Thank you. Richard Bossy from Plymouth.
Present. Acting town engineer for Plymouth.
Thank you. Is there anybody that I missed? If so, just introduce yourself. All right. Yeah, so we'll get started with our first guest speaker. Pedro, if you want to take it away, if you want to share your screen.
Sure. Thank you. I'm going to try to share it. I think, let me see if it allows me to share. It says you need to request. So let me share.
Yeah,
it.
I'm going to make you a co-host and then stop my share.
All right. So, many of you have seen this presentation before. We presented at the Bike and Pedestrian some type of meetings. We presented to the MPOs some of the general MPO meeting a month ago. Pete Sutton and I have been managing this project for over 2 years. And first of all, can you see my screen? Actually, let me see.
No, we can't see it yet.
All right. Let me try the share option. Share. Come on. All right. How about now?
Perfect.
All right. That's the Mass DOT. So again, Peter and I have been working on this analysis with VHB, and obviously not only us, the Office of Transportation Planning, the their GIS team, along with VHB, the VHB team, which was incredible. We had bi-weekly meetings for almost 2 years that finally ended up with a great product. We believe it's going to be very useful to not only my bike ped program at the highway department, but also I think like the MPOs will be able to use it, complete streets, the districts, because the primary goal of this to sort of be able to analyze the infrastructure throughout the state for where the priorities may lie within each of the MPO regions. So this was uploaded to the Mass DOT website earlier in the year. But if you go into it, I'll put a link on the chat, but there's an executive summary, methodology overview presentation, which is not only shows the executive summary of what we try to do, but the GIS tech memo, basically how we came out, what kind of databases we use for this. There's the actual map itself, which is the GIS map that we can take. I can show you a couple of things. There's statistics, which show the statistics. For example, let me see if I can see. You can see it here. We broke down the number of miles that are that exist of infrastructure, bike and pedestrian infrastructure separately within each of the MPOs. How many miles exist in each of MPO? How many miles exist within an REJ community within that MPO? Total miles in rural communities. So that was kind of a great breakdown that can be found right on the website. We created map sets, which are just very quick maps for each of the MPO regions with a little summary on the top. The maps show the segments that are the priority segments. So it's very quickly to sort of look at the Martha's Vineyard, not only in the table, but also in here in the map. And it shows you, if you're very familiar with Martha's Vineyard, it'll show you exactly what segment was a priority. And again, we broke it down there's one bike and one pedestrian map for each of the MPOs. And then finally, there's a list that would be very useful for you too. It's let's see, it opens. It's a list of each of the streets that were kind of like become a priority. It doesn't want to open the file, but it's basically a spreadsheet that also you can arrange it by, if you know your streets, it will show you the segment of the street, the name of the street, where it lies in the priority, and so forth. Here it is. So again, we can sort of break it down by each of the MPOs, by recommended infrastructure, and so forth. There's many attributes in here that are helpful to the planning purposes. So everything again is public, and let me now share just a quick presentation of how we came about this. Any questions first before I proceed? Let's see, again, there's the web map. And actually, I need to show you guys this web map that if you click on it, this is kind of the basis for the analysis or the summary. When we started this project, we were looking at all Mass DOT roads, and then we narrowed it down to Mass DOT roads that are, for the purpose of my planning, for example, in highway design, roads that are jurisdiction within Mass DOT. We didn't want to get all the state roads that, for example, belong to DCR. However, we do have another map that shows the DCR roads. So this was narrowed down to 2,300 miles. The interesting thing is that we found that when you did the gap analysis, that the gap that exists within the infrastructure, not only for bike, but for pedestrians, is about 1,600 miles gap. Basically, in order to close the network within the state, be able to connect everybody to the locations they need to travel to, we need to create about 1,600 miles of infrastructure. And that's why in this kind of map, let me see here, let me zoom in a little bit. We kind of broke it down by the top 2.5%, 2.5% for bikes. It'll show you the breakdown by the MPO. You can sort of sample, you see here, Nantucket has only a need of about 8 miles or so versus Boston, which has a need of 50 miles, for example, on the top 5%. You can see the top 5% infrastructure need. You can sort of see that's for bikes. You can sort of switch it to pedestrian, and again, the map, the blue lines are the priority segments, and everywhere where we sort of been doing the analysis, everybody understood, for example, that 9 was a very important connection, and it was kind of our basis. One of them that it keeps coming up in the maps of top priority. When we went into, for example, District 3, we found Middlebury Street as one of the priority streets, which we're already doing projects in. But it's actually a very good way, for example, you go into your MPO, zoom into the map, you can put an address on the side, and you look for, you put an address, and it'll tell you if that segment falls within the priority. So why we use it? Again, over here on the right, you would put an address, and it'll tell you there's a legend. You can sort of narrow it down by open up the map of the agent communities, it'll map them. It sort of shows you how to overlap. You can sort of turn urban communities. You can sort of turn out the pedestrian and look at the bike corridors only. So it's very helpful. And one of the reasons that we started this project was because I'm sure everybody knows Michael Trepanier and obviously Pete Sutton. And where we're starting projects, it's not only a subjective, it was like somebody came to us and tells us that we need a sidewalk at this particular intersection or a corridor. But that we can actually go in here into this map and they will tell you where the priority corridors exist and where the priority segments. So it's kind of a data-driven approach to planning. And we expect, please start using it. And if you have any questions, please email me, Pete Sutton, regarding the information. So questions before I show you, how many more minutes do I have, Kyle? Couple minutes?
As long as you want to take, I'd you can do another 5 or 10 minutes if you want.
Okay, okay. Yeah, in that case, I'll just go through quickly with so that's all the information that you can find on the website. We did this presentation. Again, we collected all the data. A lot of districts have asked us how can they implement a similar study. For example, Worcester, I believe, approached us. A couple of NPOs, and the issue is that the databases that we use we discarded some databases that were potentially not helpful or incomplete. So for municipalities, obviously some municipalities would have better access, better GIS, more resources to kind of do a similar study, because obviously we are only working within the Mass DOT roads, and we left the municipal roads outside of the study. And so again, we collected a lot of public databases, a lot of databases that exist within GeoDot that are owned by the state. And sort of the presentation kind of lists a lot of them. For example, here are REJ communities, population density, so forth. MB8 and MBTA bus routes and networks and RTA networks. Our connection, again, our goal was to sort of like, how does the network look that would connect every citizen within Massachusetts to a place that within a half a mile walk or within a 3-mile bike ride, for example. And it came to be that basically our network needs to be pretty extensive, that it basically takes over the whole state. I always mention that if we had done a similar analysis, for example, in Montana, there would only be some segments that require sidewalk or bike infrastructure, because the rest of Montana would be empty. There's no real need for a connection in those. So, but Massachusetts being very small, it basically requires a connection throughout almost 100% of the state. The 3 layers that we're looking at, again, is an infrastructure gap. If there's no infrastructure, a quality gap that has infrastructure but is not in great shape, for example, sidewalks that are not 5 feet as required, and then no physical gap, which means that they're in pretty good shape and meet federal highway guidance and so forth. I will go. We look at the land use based approach, and this is the map that we kind of looked at, except for the watershed. In the middle of the state, that kind of like there's no connection needed there. Also, this is an important one. We say that this is the sort of the database that will be used, that is kind of for capital planning, and is based, sort of supports the policy from Beyond Mobility, with 3 primary goals. One of them, which is safety. The other one is equity. And the other one is connectivity. Connectivity between land uses and also to transportation. So when we did the analysis, we kind of score those important factors like REJ communities, bike ped crashes, and HC clusters, which are safety, and then transit stops, and supermarkets, and stuff like that, that are part of the connectivity network that we wanted to raise. So this is the kind of the implementation of that Beyond Mobility policy. I won't go into this. It's a whole GIS study for people who are reading to GIS. These are the maps that I show you. And again, the way we're looking at it is like how it can be used. There's bike and pedestrian network planning, and for not only for us, for the districts or the NPOs. How do we potentially allocate funding between in an annual basis or 5-year basis? How do we distribute those funding into HA communities or rural communities? We can also use it for annual reporting. I believe the Office of Transportation Planning is creating a performance dashboard. The districts and NPOs can look at this to initiate their own projects, understanding that potentially that would be the way that highway design, we would fund those projects. Complete Streets, again, it's can use this for the planning purposes. And then finally, in complements, two other study facilities inventories that we're doing. One of them is the sidewalk inventory that exists. And then also the sidewalk analysis that we're doing with the UMass Amherst, which by the end of the summer, we should have a more robust, almost 100% correct database of the sidewalks where they exist. So we should be able to sort of see where the sidewalk exists and use this priority network, for example, network map to sort of figure out where the priority for future projects could be. So again, thank you, and I'll open it to any questions. I know it was quick.
So can you test this right now?
Excuse me?
Can we test this right now?
Yes. It is actually I'll put it on the chat as we speak. But it is now. I mean, it is right now in the Mass DOT site at the mass.gov site, and you should be able to go into the map and start playing with it.
Okay. I was hoping you might punch in and demonstrate something, but if we don't have time for that,
I could if you want. Let me show you quickly. It's just a typical. Where am I? Let's see.
So this is a real world application. There's a sort of major street here that I think could use not even a bike lane, but let's just say it's a bike lane. Yep. Crescent Street, like the crescent of a moon. So it's Crescent Street, Brockton.
Crescent Street, Brockton. All right, let me see.
Right, and if you need an address, I'll get you an address.
Brockton, MA. All right.
Yep.
So there you go. It takes us to Crescent Street. Let me zoom out a little bit.
So to the right of the bridge, yep.
And so as I mentioned, if the first thing is that if there is no information regarding that, means potentially that it is it's a municipal road.
Ah, got it. Okay, so you have center marked.
Yep.
Which is actually most of it's in TIP projects already, so it's not the best example. I mean, planned TIP projects. So
yeah, and it is. We do have a big project in Brockton. I believe is 123 or 132, one of those. But for example, here it shows you a segment of road where if you click on it, it gives you a score of 100, which means for us in planning, when we do the NEO assessment, this would probably come up as one of the priority projects for District 5, I believe, right? So
right, correct.
And then this is kind of for a bike corridor. So we will be looking at this corridor, which again, I'm not very familiar with this title, with this where it is, but again, it keeps coming out as 100% bike facility needed for this location. So that is kind of like a good application. I mean, there's other.
So the red line.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the red line just to the right of your mouse, right there, on Route 28. We were just out there today, many of us on this call, for a walk audit, actually. And so that's Route 28. So where the red ends, is that because does the control transfer to the city? Is that why?
It is. That's exactly it. There's a lot of we use the road inventory, Mass DOT road inventory, as the kind of like the map. Because again, we are using it primarily Mass DOT to implement projects within Mass DOT jurisdiction.
Right.
And again, that we would have, of course, liked to include all the municipalities and everything, but except the databases do not exist for a lot of municipalities. So it would be unfair in the sense of, like, you know, some municipalities would have the data and we would be able to provide this kind of study, and some municipalities would be left out.
Is it,
yeah.
Is this a layer that municipalities can turn on if they have their own data though? Like they can they add this this map on top of other maps that they might be using?
It is exactly one of the things that, for example, when I was talking to, we're right in the middle, actually, right here, if we show complete street, one of the ways that I know, for example, Francisco Lovera in Complete Streets, is that most of their work is municipal work. So we would be asking, you know, he could potentially go in here and look at this map. Like, this is terminating. One side it shows you a score of 89. On the other side it shows you a score of 100. For whatever reason, actually 86 for some of the red segments. So that if you're planning within the town of Brockton, then and you sort of see a very high score on one side, you say, well, let's work with Mass DOT, and highway design to close a corridor that includes Mass DOT jurisdiction roads and municipal roads, for example.
Yeah, it can show where the municipality should put their energy in order to fill the gaps.
Exactly. Any other questions?
Thanks so much for putting this together.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been a great, again, teamwork definitely on highway design, the chief engineer's office, and OTP. And again, I recommend that if you have some information or you have some data or databases that I should suggesting that maybe reach out to not only Charles Major at the OTP, who's our GIS person, or to VHB directly, and I can provide you with all that information. They might be able to provide you, like, how can you go about doing a similar study within a municipality?
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Pedro, very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
It's
for
been very helpful to all of you, all of us. So thank you for inviting me.
And thank you to Jed and Alando for your questions, and thank you for Matt posting the link to get to that vision map. Okay, we'll move on to Galen Mook and Alexis Hosea Abbott to talk about Mass Bike.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the invite. I'll be splitting this with Alexis and we'll be pretty quick, I think. See if I can share. I just put together a couple of photos. Let me see if I can get this going. Do you see a Google slide presentation?
Yes.
Cool. Great. We'll see how this works. Okay, so Mass Bike is rolling. For those of you unfamiliar, we are the statewide advocacy organization, 501c3 nonprofit, but we partner a lot with the MPOs and the agencies to kind of get better biking across the Commonwealth. A couple things we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about Bike Month. We'll talk about some of the legislative work that Mass Bike is up to. We'll talk about the Safe Routes to Schools work, which is pertinent to your neck of the woods. And then I'll pass it off to Alexis to talk a bit about her concept of the Council of Advocates and kind of the higher level stuff that she's doing from the regional advocacy specialist lens. I'll start off with Bike Month, which is now. Happy Bike Month. It's May. We're going real hard, real fast. If you are unfamiliar, every May is National Bike Month. We co-opt it and call it Bay State Bike Month here. It's something that Mass Bike hosts, and we host a calendar of events across the state. I think we have about 130 events that are in May that are publicly accessible. We also like to send out some resources. So for instance, if you signed up for an event, put it on our calendar, we'll ship you one of these cool snazzy t-shirts as modeled by Peter here at our Bike Month kickoff in Somerville. And the idea is this is the encouragement segment of getting more people to ride more bikes more often. And basically it's a reason to do bike to work days, bike breakfasts, bike workshops, anything and everything bikey. And we like to direct people to our calendar, and Old Colony always does a bang up job of spreading the word out there too. So happy to kind of have this be on everybody's radar. The goal is that we have local organizations basically running local events. I like to say that all biking is local. Mass Bike does not have the wherewithal or the capacity or the knowledge to really influence all the wheels on the ground stuff. So our goal here is to inspire bike ped groups, community groups, or even just individuals who want to plug in this time of year to kind of get them rolling into the summer season. And if you're interested, massbike.org has the calendar. And actually, I wonder if I can pop this up. If I can stop sharing this, I can probably go to, yeah, our events calendar. If you can see, we have so much going on all around the state. If you go to our bike friendly calendar, you can kind of scroll around and see, and it's garnered by geography as well as date and time too. So right now I'm kind of centered in the Boston area because that's where I am with my IP address, but the idea that you can kind of hyperlocate what's going on in your neck of the woods. And if you want to add an event that's not on our calendar, we have a whole rundown of how to add an event publicly so we can spread the word on it. So that's the first thing I'll talk about. Are there any bike month, Kyle, are there any bike month stuff I want to highlight while I'm on this slide?
As far as the events we had,
Yeah, how'd it go? How's it going?
it went really well. We'll talk about that. That's in a couple more agenda items.
Cool.
We had but we did have 3 events, so it was good.
Love it. Great. And again, it's about promotion. We're not going to solve all the world's problems, but it's about building community and kind of gaining momentum. So great. That's the first update. The second update is in April, I was down with my Safe Routes to Schools instructors. Bonnie, who's on the call, helped set this up. We were at a couple of middle schools in your area. We were at East Middle School, which is that bottom photo of kind of actually the bottom and the right photo of our instructor, Aaron, teaching about bike safety for the middle schoolers in East. And then we were also in Ashfield Middle School in Brockton, which was a neighborhood school. Don't have a photo of that, but you can imagine how bucolic and serene and peaceful Ashfield was. East was a little hectic next to the busy roads, but we got something like 250 or so students riding each day, which was fantastic. And then we were also in the Nathaniel Morton School in Plymouth. That's that top photo there of the PE teacher, Jen, with all of her elementary schoolers kind of digging into some of the bike handling skills. This is part of the Safe Routes to Schools program. Usually Mass Bike will come in and do what's known as like a one-day event, bike rodeo, or we'll do a presentation. Bonnie can talk a lot more about this. She's the coordinator for the region. But this was a really cool advancement because we were able to procure a fleet of bikes. So for these particular schools, Ashfield, East, and Nathaniel Morton, we brought bikes down with us, which meant that every student got to get real world experience bike handling. And it was both wouldn't call it a crash course, but I'll call it a fast-paced introduction to biking and bike handling, as well as the bike safety stuff. And it also really promoted healthy movement. I know in particular that at East, they don't have a lot of outdoor time just because of the constraints on the school. So to be able to get out and ride during the school day was such a bright little star for all of these students, and just kind of want to highlight some of the work that we were going on. And that was the 2 weeks in April that we were down in your neck of the woods with this. And I highly recommend checking in with Bonnie to see what else can be done, not just in the Brockton area, but region wide, to make sure that she's out there and the Mass Bike instructors are back out working with the students. Next slide is a little bit about our lobbying efforts. In February, we hosted a lobby day at the State House. It was actually before formal committees were set and before all filing legislation had real numbers. They were still in docket form, but we had about 65 folks attend, and this was a weekday, and again, early in the session, so it was a great turnout. This is a photo from the opening remarks by Senator Brownsberger, who is the Senate President pro tempore and also my personal senator. And he's a champion of a few of the bills that we are pursuing, but just want to let you know that it is legislative season out there, and I will scroll a bit on our legislation page. If folks are interested, they go to massbike.org/legislation, and you can see some of the bills that we are, sorry to scroll quickly, that we are prioritizing. We have a few road safety bills. One is to support the increase of Chapter 90 funds, because we do know that a lot of the municipal roads and sidewalks that Pedro was just mentioning there, out of DOT control, need state dollars to make sure that they can get all of the necessities of making it safe. So we are supportive of that. We're also supportive of traffic safety cameras, basically automated enforcement. We want to crack that door open so we can actually have municipalities put cameras up to use enforcement. This is a bill that has lots of momentum, I think, in both chambers. We believe that the governor and the administration is very supportive of it, so we're hopeful that this session safety cameras will be able to actually be allowed and that municipalities will be able to implement them. The next step would then to make sure that they are also on DCR or DOT controlled roadways as well. We're also seeking expanding our truck safety requirements. As part of the vulnerable users bill that passed 2 sessions ago, we were able to get side guards, convex mirrors, and backup cameras mandated on trucks that were owned or leased by the Commonwealth. However, there's a couple of loopholes that are unfortunately being exploited by drivers, and the idea that even if you're under contract from the Commonwealth, that might not necessarily mean leased. Or if you're receiving state funding as a municipality to buy new equipment for like your DPW, that also might not necessarily be mandated for the safety requirements. And our goal with MassBike is to get as many trucks on the roads with as much safety as possible. So this bill would help clarify and close some of those loopholes, and also hopefully encourage the DOT to provide some funding so that municipalities who are seeking dollars to upgrade their trucks, either with direct vision, side guards, convex mirrors, backup cameras, to make sure that truck drivers are more aware of their surroundings as they're driving around. This is a bill that we are supporting. And then lesser so, but we're hoping that we're kind of get these bike-specific bills rolling through. 2 of them. One is from Rep. Vitolo in Brookline, where it would redesignate crosswalks as marked crossings for vulnerable users. We think that there's a lot of uses out there of people who are crossing on marked crossings that are unsignalized, that are on wheelchairs or scooters or otherwise that are not necessarily technically pedestrians, now that we have a vulnerable users category. So the goal with this is to actually expand protections for anybody who's not in a car when they're crossing a roadway in a marked crossing. And the last on the bike-specific ones is the bike yielding, which is basically the stop as yield law. 8 states currently have this. The NHTSA has even sent out white papers saying that it's safer for cyclists to yield at stop signs as opposed to come to a full stop. And that's based off momentum. That's based off clearing the danger zone and making them more visible to drivers. We'll see if this moves forward, but I'm assuming that the 2 bills I was just referring to about the marked crossing and the safe yielding probably won't be moving too far this session until we get like a real traffic safety package coming through, which I can talk a little bit more about my projections. But we have a new House chair, we're building new relationships, and there's a lot that the Transportation Committee is tackling right now. So we'll kind of see where those end up. One final bill I'll talk about is, sorry to keep scrolling, an act aligning the Commonwealth's transportation plans with its mandates and goals for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled. That's a very wordy way of saying that the state DOT 2050 plans don't align necessarily with the state's 2050 climate goals. So this is a legislative tool that would hopefully allow the agencies to really work together, the EEA and the DOT, to figure out how projects will encourage mode shift, will reduce VMT along with reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Because I think what we're learning about 5 years into the electric vehicle mandate is that we're not going to drive our way out of a climate crisis, and we shouldn't back down from our goals. We should just change our approaches. So this is a kind of a tool that would force the conversation, which may or may not be necessary depending on how the agencies work together, but this is something that we're keeping our eye on as well. Okay, I'll take a quick pause before I pass to Alexis, Kyle, or others if you want to ask any questions about some of the legislative work or any of the other stuff. Great.
Yeah, I don't see any questions.
Well,
Yeah, I know it's fast paced. Just trying to keep
Lee Hartman, I'll just jump in. As somebody who clips on bike, that yield at a stop sign, that would be just, that will save my knees. I've done that more than once.
Yeah, the very slow topple over when you come to a full stop and you forget to unclick.
Been there, done that.
Hey, Galen, I have a question. This is Pedro.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, I'm on the also Mass Trails team and with DCR, EOEA, and Highway Department. And one of the big questions that's come up with a policy regarding electric bikes on shared use paths and all this stuff. I'm sure you have people have approached you too, or you've been thinking about it. Any thoughts on how to approach that policy? Some guidelines for that kind of, especially with the summer coming?
Yeah, great question. I don't know if I have an answer right now for you, Pedro, but the idea that the DOT has convened a micromobility commission, which is mandated to release a report by December based on exactly these questions. So I don't have an answer right now because it's in process. And MassBike has a seat at the table along with Walk Massachusetts, along with accessibility advocates. My short answer is that any prohibitions or regulations need to have sensible enforcement. So I'm actually trying to recommend that pathway jurisdictions jurisdictions for pathways are really leaning on education and signage and kind of getting out as a public awareness campaign ahead of any firm regulations or prohibitions. Although I will couch that by saying that in the e-bike bill that was passed prior sessions, there was a sentence we put in that you can have official speed limits on pathways. Before they were advisory speeds, now they can be official speeds. And that would allow you to actually put up some signage, maybe some speed feedback, and actually have a little bit of a sharper tooth for saying, if your speed limit on the pathway is 15 miles an hour, maybe even 10 miles an hour, you can actually now formally put up signs that state that. That might not necessarily lead to a good enforcement strategy, but at least it's a good statement of what a regulation could be if you do put that regulation in place. But I would also couch all of this by saying that my general ethos with MassBike here is that with so many types of devices out there, I'm really focusing to help manage the user and not manage the device. And somebody on a class 3 e-bike going 10 miles an hour on a pathway, in my opinion, is just fine, versus somebody on a road bike going 20 miles an hour on a pathway is not okay. And the idea that the class 3 e-bike is not allowed as a device is going to be very hard to enforce. So I think what we really need to work on is approaching behavior above approaching the device, as long as it's in the non-motorized category. I don't know if that's helpful, but I will say that the Micromobility Commission is currently in process, and I recommend also plugging in with that. That's a public body that we all want to get as much information and resources for. Cool. I'll just keep going on that one. Two great examples I'm seeing are the Shining Sea Bikeway in Falmouth are upping their signage and upping their enforcement and education campaigns as well. And after Memorial Day, the Shining Sea becomes nutso. And out on the Minuteman, similar signage is going up in the Arlington, Bedford area to match what Lexington has been able to do about slowing down, signaling when passing, riding single file if it's crowded, and just kind of hoping to get etiquette up, short of putting police officers out there to issue citations. Cool. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pass to Alexis, and with that, I'll go to one of her next slides to talk about the Council of Advocates.
Hello, my name is Alexis Hosea Abbott. I've been with MassBike for a few years, and I started out as a volunteer at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and my role here is to complement what Galen's doing at the legislative level with working in all of the MPOs throughout the state, and also hearing directly from regional bike ped committees. So one of my major goals is to reduce siloing or separating out, because we have so many levels of government and structure. So recently, for example, I'm working with CMRPC and Boston Regional MPO, so they can do mobility audits in Worcester coming up in June, which we're really excited about, because we haven't, unlike Walk Massachusetts, we haven't really built out the capacity for audits at Mass Bike. So this is the beginning of that effort. And just this year, as you can see on the screen, we started a council of advocates, which two of the folks on this call are participating in, both Yolando and Jed. So they could probably speak to it just as much as I could. It's brand new. We've only had 2 meetings so far, but the goal again is to increase collaboration and reduce siloing and not continually reinvent the wheel of how to get support for advocacy and biking in every single municipality or region in the state. Currently, we're about up to 17 members, and I'm being very selective about trying to get active participation in every region, which is extremely difficult. But I've been like sneaking into local meetings and then putting the word out. And I haven't been doing broadcasting because otherwise I would get lots of concentration from the areas that are already well represented. But yeah, I'll keep it short because we've shared so much already, but you can reach out to me if you have any questions about my current efforts. And yeah, let me know if you have any other questions.
Thank you. Can that page be can that be sent over so we can share that?
Sure, except for I'm still being a little quiet about my council of advocates.
Right.
But yeah, I can at least for the meeting notes, I can share this.
I'll just jump on this too. The Massachusetts Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board, which is hosted by Mass DOT, is also seeking new members. So I think Alexis is being a little bit selective so that she can kind of curate the goals that help Mass Bike and help locals directly. But DOT has a very open process now. If anybody wants to join the MABPAB, I highly recommend checking that out as well.
Yeah, I'm applying. Yolanda sent that to me, so I'll apply.
So if I could, Lee Hartman, if I could just jump in real quickly. The one thing, and I don't know if it works with this group, but as a rider, I wish I rode more, but my example would be Onset Avenue in Wareham that I ride fairly regularly. It doesn't matter to me, but it's on the Pan Mass Challenge. And I look at that as an example for the last 8 years, there's probably 150-foot long stretch of road that's pretty much gone. It's just potholes filled. And now for me, I know I avoid it, but then I wonder, like, is there a way, and it's jurisdictional because you have local and you have state, and even for me, I look at that road and say, is it state road? Is it a town road? But what is the way for not major repairs? We know which roads are in really bad shape, but that's a good example of one, especially on the Pan Mass Challenge, where somebody must crash every year in that one little piece because it's tough. But thinking of whether there was some way where there could be some coordinated approach for some of the simple fixes. I know there are a lot of roads that would be too complicated, but that was always one that every time I go by that, I think, why over the last 8 years hasn't that been patched up, especially for such an important bike route? And again, I don't know how you do that, and it's jurisdictional, but that's just one observation when you just see as you ride around Massachusetts, areas, very limited places that are really bad that just would take a minor fix that could make it so much safer.
Lee, can I ask who you're directing your question to specifically?
It's just an observation. I'm not directing it anyway. I'm just saying, as a rider, I think for me when I ride, would be more useful is, like I say, identifying those handful of dangerous spots. And we know, like I say, some of the things are far bigger and more complicated, but there are easy fixes that it would be really helpful if there was some way where bikers could identify those and seek ways to just see.
Kyle, don't you have a map that you put out for Vision Zero that people could enter things into? Is that still open?
Yeah, Matt posted the link in the chat for that.
Well, also, since we have Mass DOT on the call, So Center Street here in Brockton, it's under Mass DOT's control, most of it. So when I reported a pothole to the city, they said report to Mass DOT. Are there any plans for an app, or we have to just call up? Because currently we have to make a phone call to report the pothole.
Well, there's a couple things regarding that kind of need. If you're talking just about potholes, I am not sure regarding that. I can reach out to, I know that we have a maintenance group department. A lot of times you can reach out right through the district maintenance team, you know, and sort of, because they usually kind of deal with sort of minor maintenance issues. For the larger question of intersections, problematic intersections, again, I just joined Mass DOT a couple years ago, and within our team, there's a group that just deals with intersections. And they obviously have, for example, the top 200 crash intersections that, I don't know, they're obviously vehicular issues, but they're also kind of note pedestrian accidents and bike sort of crashes. So I don't know if there's a dashboard. I know that they sort of been, our goal, similar to me, programming bike and ped projects. They're programming intersection projects to clean up those intersections with the worst issues. But I don't know if there's if any of that information how you would go about finding it through a dashboard in the public way. I know there's a website, you can go in there, but you don't need to understand how to get in there and stuff. But
yeah,
for the purposes of just like, I don't know if you were saying are you looking at a particular intersection?
I mean,
or are you looking
I could have sworn years ago that there was a broader state app, like basically the state had done a 311 app, and now I can't find it for the life of me. Maybe they pulled it. So it wasn't just DOT stuff. You could basically report a whole range of things, and they would deal with it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I just posted the C-Click Fix website. You can report potholes, graffiti.
For Brockton or for the state?
It's for the whole state.
And the state looks to that site?
I'm assuming so.
Does it get dispatched?
So looking at the link, it looks like there are for different towns and cities listed, and Brockton does have its own profile, so you can.
Right. No, and I reported the pothole, and then Brockton responded that it's a state road. So if it doesn't get, if it just, unless Mass DOT is listening, or someone from the state is listening to like reviewing, if they're not getting a feed of complaints from the statewide C-Click Fix, then it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I know that a little while ago, Barbara LaChance was here from District 5.
Yeah.
You know, she would, again, she's more connected to the maintenance component of the district. How it go, whether those complaints get distributed per district or by a central office, I'm not aware, but I can find out and then send an email to the team once I find out a little bit more about it.
Hi, everyone. It's Barbara from District 5. I'm not sure how the C-Click Fix thing works, but I know that we do have a number. Our roadside engineer usually handles any complaints about, I believe, about potholes and other issues on the maintenance side of things. I'm not sure how they do it now, but I know they used to have like a running list of, as people would call up, they had like, I don't know if they used a spreadsheet or what they did for it, but they would like add it to their, list of concerns and on how they went about addressing them. I'm not sure how they do that now, but you can call the district and ask for the maintenance section, and they can put you over.
And that's how I reported it, but wouldn't a photo be helpful? I mean, we're able to do that here, and in Boston's 311, you can upload a photo too, so they can, when the crew comes out, they can see what it is you're talking about.
Well, I think once you get in touch with the our roadsides engineer, you might be able to do email with him, and you can send photos and pictures and however they want to address it. I'm not quite sure.
Right, and I'm not saying it wasn't taken care of, but I know like within the Brockton and also Boston system, you'll see feedback. So there is some accountability there. Again, I'm not saying Mass DOT wasn't accountable. But it does help the end user know that someone looked at it or
Right.
didn't look at it. Like here's an example that actually applies to the biking thing. Most of the sewer grills in Brockton, if they have sort of lines, are perpendicular to the bike. So meaning you won't hit it with your bike tire and flip. But there's a few of them in Brockton that were. So I reported them, and Brockton DPW responds. They misunderstood my question. They thought I wanted to get rid of the sewer grill, and I'm like, no, I just want it rotated 90 degrees. But I was able to respond, and then they understood, and then they fixed it.
I can get more information and
Yeah.
forward it through the through Old Colony and get back
Sure.
so we can disperse it to everybody if that's helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, so in terms of time, we're gonna keep moving forward here. We're gonna go to Sebastian. He's gonna talk about his world record attempt. So Sebastian, take it away.
Hello, how's everyone
Hello.
doing?
Great.
Yeah, let
Cool,
me
everybody can-
post. I'll post your flyer here. You're muted.
All right, cool.
There you
Yeah, my FKT attempt happening this Saturday. A lot of wheels been turning. I appreciate you guys for giving me a small opportunity to talk about this and just yeah, explain what's going on, answer any questions if you guys might have any. My name's Sebastian St. Hubert. I am an endurance athlete. That's what I been focused on doing for the last about year at this point. I work as a CMO professionally, but a lot of my time has been in this active endurance sport. So a lot of running, a lot of cycling is what I've been honing in and getting my craft up to speed with. So this challenge, the distance between, is essentially a world record attempt that I'm going to be setting this Saturday at midnight or this Sunday at midnight. The goal is to travel from Boston to New York Times Square. So Boston Common specifically, going all the way to New York Times Square in under 10 hours. Um, a lot of people have asked kind of like, why did this come about or how did this happen? Truly, it was me trying to, I'm going to use the word infiltrate the cycling community. And I wanted to kind of mark my stamp there to let people know, like, hey, I'm here and I want to be um, just taken seriously. It's a it's not a lot of people that look like me within the sport of cycling, and becoming a part of that and joining that world. I wanted to try to figure out ways so that my voice could be heard, so I can talk about just different things that are important to me. And I wanted to make sure that before I even get to any stage of talking, or not even like just advocating, but before I just start talking or giving my spiel on different things and ideas within the community of cycling and athletic sports, I knew it would be better if I could prove myself, just like everything. So I wanted to create a challenge that I could prove not only to just myself, but also my community and the endurance world that, hey, I want to be a part of this industry and I want to be taken seriously in this industry. So I, in return, made a serious goal and have been training for about a year now to meet the standards required to be able to go on this challenge. So yeah, it's going to be over the course of 225-ish to 230 miles, roughly. Um, we're going to be starting Boston Common midnight, and the goal is to be cycling there, and we're going to get there before 10 a.m. Sunday. So that'll be the goal. There's a lot of logistical things that I'm pretty sure I can go hours on about talking at this point. It's been a lot of planning as far as like, what I'm going to be eating nutritionally to just getting the crew sorted out. We're like making a small doc out of this as well. So like getting camera stuff and plotting out all the stops and this, anything you can think of. There's a lot that goes into it preparation. People are flying in to help out. So it's just a lot of different aspects are coming about. But Yeah, I wanted to open the floor if anybody had any pressing questions, or not pressing, but just any questions in general. I don't know what information I should give exactly about this, so I want to answer kind of what might be on somebody's mind.
Sebastian, I don't know if you mentioned it, but where do you live?
So I live in Brockton. I live in
Yes.
Brockton,
There we go.
Massachusetts. I'm not gonna say currently, but I live in Brockton as of right now. I'm here, so that's a
Yeah.
good thing. Um, and I was
And do
born and
you
raised in
practice?
Brockton,
Oh yeah.
so
And you
I
told us
was
before you practice what you're riding about 40 miles a day somewhere around in this area.
Yeah, so I roughly I was just explaining to somebody now because they're like, hey, what's your routes that you usually choose? And I was like, usually, I mean, I pick loops. So if I'm doing 40 miles, I'll try to start from my house naturally. Actually, I'm gonna be honest, I don't start from my house because Strava, it shows you exactly where you start and where you end. And I was like, I kind of don't want my address this floating around in my hundreds of Strava records. So I was like, I usually like walk down the street and I start from like the middle of a blank space. Um, but I probably go 20 miles out most of the times, and then I'll go 20 miles in. Sometimes I'll go as far as I was just explaining, I did a 90-mile ride last week. So essentially it's about 20 something miles to Boston. So what I did was I rode from my house to Prudential Center, then I rode to my house again, then I went back to Prudential Center, and then I went back to my house just to, yeah, just building the lactate stress threshold within my legs to be able to do this type of ride. But it varies. My rides can be as long as what I just told you. It could be going to Rhode Island and coming back, or it could just be me going to Southeastern's where I went to high school. So I'll probably ride back and forth to Southeastern like 4 or 5 times just to kind of get that work in that I need. Um, any more questions from anybody here? Like what everybody's wondering.
I don't have a question, but we're all rooting for you. I'll be I'll be watching your live streams whenever you post.
Yeah, and I guess
And
that's another thing I'll say too. Definitely, if you guys have Instagram, you can follow me there. I'll be posting just like some behind the scenes stuff as the weeks come by, but we're also going to be live streaming on Instagram throughout various points of the race. Most likely the pit stops, certain checkpoints. We're going to be just live streaming the whole experience, and then when we get there, finishing, we'll be live streaming that as well. So if you guys want to follow along, if you guys want to reach out, if you guys want to go for a bike ride, I don't just do 40-mile rides. I am down to go 2, 3 miles as well. So if anybody ever wants to connect, ask some questions, or just want some more information, I truly, the whole idea of this is to inspire people to enter this world of endurance, to make people realize that endurance sports is tied so closely to real life than we expect. Me doing this ride taught me how to endure actual challenges that come about in my life, whether it's just work challenges, family, things that happen in the social groups and the social norms. Endurance taught me that just perseverance, obviously hard work, but all those things can seem impossible until it's done, until somebody shows you how to do it. And a lot of the times, that's how real life is. That kid that's in college that never figured he would be there. Once he gets there, all of a sudden he's like, oh, this is not as hard as I thought it was. I should get a master's. I should get a doctorate. And it's just like endurance. When you run your first 5K, then you want to run a half and then a full. When you ride your first 2 miles, then you want to do 10, and you want to do 20. And truly, I started within that same feat of probably where everybody else is at now, as far as just getting on a bike and learning for the first time. And I just want to correlate how endurance and real life is really hand in hand. So yeah, my Instagram is on the flyer. Kyle, you can definitely distribute it as needed to everybody so you can follow along. If you happen to be a night owl and you want to come out midnight, there's going to be a couple people there. So we can definitely just hang out for a few. I'll be there around like 10 o'clock, just preparing everything, my body. So if you want to come out, ask a few questions, look at some gear, just want to come hang for a little bit, we'll be there, Boston Common, um, this Saturday.
So, and oh, sorry, I'm organizing I'm organizing folks to come out and support him, particularly the Boston cyclists out there. So, and also just his point about, yes, the 2 or 3 miles he rode with our Brockton Bikes group beginning of this month, and was great about it. Never raced ahead of us, was very helpful. And but as soon as we were done, then he was like a stroke of lightning. It was like bam, just went down the street like. Sorry.
I want to congratulate you on your endurance. I'm a soon to be retired endurance Ironman. So I know exactly what you've gone through.
I need to call. I need to call you. Everybody's been saying, "What's my next thing?" I said, "I want to do an Ironman. I want to do like a 70.3. That is like my. I know this is the goal, but that's in the back of my mind. That's the next thing I want to do. I need to do a 70.3.
I have one it's my last one this summer, and then I'm having a knee replacement. So
Well,
I
congratulations, man. That's
understand where you are, and I'm going to switch more to biking and quit running. So you can get my contact from Kyle.
Definitely. I would love to.
Anytime. So
No, that's amazing.
I'll get you into Ironman. You do the
Let's do it.
70.3, you're going to want to do
A full. I know. And then
oh yeah. Yeah, I did 4. So it's fun.
No, that's incredible.
So congratulations on the endurance.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. You have a good grasp of it, and it's changed my life. It's changed yours. It's it puts a perspective into what you can anyone can do it. And that's the thing. I went from a 375-pound person to being able to do Ironman. So it's
That's incredible.
it's changing your life, and it's helped me in my career and everything. So I just wanted to just reinforce that what you're doing is good.
No, I appreciate that. And I mean, yeah, you understand. Like you get it. You lived it. So I'm like, we definitely see eye to eye, and just what I'm trying to say beyond just the words, because you experienced it. So
Well, I'm sitting there going, I don't think I can do it in 10 hours, but I bet I could do it in 15.
and I think that's a big thing as well. I think that's another thing I kind of wanted to like. I always tell people that like, this is a crazy time goal, but I'm also saying people like, hey, it's not about just the time. Like the time is just the athletic side of me that's trying to make sure, we even in the newspaper, I was talking about it, and they're like, "So, what do you want people to get from this?" And I kind of, told them about the inspirational side. And then at the end, I was like, "But aside from all that, I need people to understand I am really fast. Like, I need people to understand that as an athlete, like, I really can race you, and I will beat you. Like, it's not just for fun, but there's the two sides of it."
Congratulations.
Thank you a lot. I appreciate that.
Hey, Sebastian, thanks for coming on. Good luck out there. Be safe on the road.
Definitely will. The helmet will be wearing. Will be worn. All right, guys. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Let's move on to projects in the OCPC region. Sean, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Kyle. 2 of the projects that are in our region that I'll be discussing today with some assistance with follow-ups or updates from Barbara LaChance. The first one is in the city of Brockton. It's intersection improvements at Lyman, Grove, and Summer Streets, as well as the replacement of the Grove Street Bridge. Included in the reconstruction is including the right turn slip lane from Summer Street northbound to Lyman Street eastbound. The existing traffic signal will be replaced, pavement will be reclaimed or overlaid, and new loop detection will be installed. Pedestrian facilities will also be installed to meet ADA and MUTCD compliance. And then new pavement markings and signage will also be installed. And then the Grove Street Bridge will be entirely replaced. And then the second project is 609440 in the town of Abington, intersection improvements at Hancock at Chestnut Streets. It includes safety and operational improvements at the intersection to include constructing a roundabout, as well as changing the roadway profile and improving topography at the intersection and all approaches, as well as constructing cement concrete pedestrian curb ramps to meet ADA and MassDOT accessibility requirements. Also, retaining walls, street lighting, and drainage system improvement will be conducted as well. Barbara, do you happen to have any other updates for either of these projects?
Give you guys a status on where we're actually at in the design process. The Brockton project, We're currently waiting for a revised 25% design submittal, which is one of our preliminary design submissions. That submittal is due, I believe, the end of May, should be coming in. And that one this project currently has an advertising date of December of 26. So hopefully we can keep the submittals moving forward so we can make that advertising date. And the Abington project is, we just completed the 100% review for that one. And we anticipate the final PS&E submission the end of June of this year. This one here is really on a good track for January 17th of 26. That's what we're looking for right now for an advertising date for that project. So they're both moving forward. One's clearly for a little bit further ahead than the other, but moving along.
Very good. Thank you, Barbara. Does anyone have any questions for Barbara or myself? Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
All right, thank you both. And our final agenda item, we're just going to go through the success of our 3 Bay State Bike Month events. Matt, if you want to talk about the Easton and Plymouth ones.
Sure. Thanks, Kyle, and I'll keep it short. So Old Colony Planning had hosted 3 Bike Month events throughout the month of May. This year, I think it was a really great celebration as we partnered with multiple agencies or small businesses. One was at Borderland State Park, where we partnered with the park staff as well as their nonprofit that operates within the park, Smith Farms, as well as NEMBA, which is the Northeast Mountain Bike Association. We had a couple of people join us for our ride where we met park staff throughout the park to learn more about the Ames Estate, as well as some facts about the park and nature and fauna, and heard a little bit more about Smith Farms' mission and how they really truly make an impact within our community and veterans alike. And then we ended the tour with a grand tour of the mansion, which we wish we could show photos of, but unfortunately we're not able to share photos from within inside the mansion. So you're going to have to go to the park to get your tour of the mansion and check it out. It's something, it is truly a treasure of the Commonwealth. Moving on to Plymouth, we partnered with Untold Brewery, who hosted the event or co-hosted the event with us. And their cycling club offered 3 rides, a 3-mile ride along the Seaside Trail, going towards the waterfront of Plymouth. They also hosted a 13.5-mile ride and a 24.5-mile ride throughout the town of Plymouth. We had Hefe's food truck on site serving up some tacos and some sweet treats. And we had Sirius Cycle there to offer rider support, like pumping up the tires or adjusting brakes or whatever cyclists need to make sure they had a great trip. And Untold Brewery went above and beyond, and they made a special session brew for the event called Rule 5. We had over 60 participants join us for this event, and I cannot say thank you enough to our partners, Untold, Hefe's, Sirius Cycles, and the team here at Old Colony Planning for making it all happen. So thank you guys. I think this was truly the capstone event of this May. And I'll hand it off to Sean to talk more about biking with that.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, to wrap up our Bike Month events, we held our annual Bike with Bat event located just outside the Bat Center. It's an event that we've been hosting since 2014. This year, we actually had a special guest, Sebastian St. Hubert, who presented earlier. He joined us, and as you can see in the pictures, he set up a table with some of his gear that he will be taking on his bike ride this weekend. And even though it was a rainy day, we still had multiple people show up with their bicycles. Yolando Spinola showed up, as well as our executive director, Mary Waldron. And then lastly, we had a West Bridgewater resident who registered on our bike month. I'm sorry, our Mass Bike Bike Month calendar. So it was a pretty good turnout. I'd say we had maybe 20, 30 people show up, even in the the rain. But we had some refreshments. We had some pastries and other bakery baked good items, as well as some coffee from Lady C&J Cafe, who's located right inside the Bat Center. Overall, it was a great event, great bike month all around, and already looking forward to next year. I'll give it back to you, Kyle.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Matt. And we've made it to the end. So our next meetings, we have one August 20th, and then the last one of 2025 will be on November 19th. And this was a nice long meeting. I think this was our longest meeting we've ever had. So thank you all for being here. And if nobody has anything else, we'll see you guys in August.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you very much.